Hey, what's up, guys? Eyes open in California here. So today is Monday, October 6th, 2025. Well, I took a week of work. I took a week of vacation away from work last week because I had too much time on the books and I wanted to burn some time. And in burning that time, I was able to catch up on sleep. And in catching up on my sleep, I God blessed me with a couple of dreams, and I want to share them with you. So last week, probably like October 1st, I had this dream. In this dream, the World War III invasion of America had already happened, and there was foreign militaries fighting U.S. military units inside America, and they were also fighting civilian units. So, anyways, in this dream, I'm in a mall, and I am a U.S. soldier. I'm a Marine. I was some U.S. infantryman. I had the uniform and everything, so I couldn't have been me because I'm an old fart. But I was a young infantryman. And I had the U.S. uniform on, and I looked to my right and I looked to my left, and everywhere I look, I see my rifle squad. So, anyways, in my hands, though, in my hands, I was holding an AK-47, and I had a knowing that I lost my service rifle, and I picked this AK-47 up off of a dead enemy soldier. I had I don't know what happened to get me to this point in this dream, what happened prior to this, but it seemed like the fecal matter may have hit the oscillating blades, and I had an enemy soldier's rifle in my hand. So, anyways, my unit is setting up an ambush in a mall, and it's broad daylight. And I am on the second story balcony in an overwatch position. I'm looking downstairs at an entryway that enters into the mall, which I could presume was maybe like the food court area. So the layout of the mall kind of looks like this. This is a top view. So the mall kind of looks like this. It's a long mall, and there's like a little finger here that's an entryway, like stores come in. And this is just the top view. And I had a knowing that the Chinese infantry was going to come in through here. So I was watching this spot right here from an overwatch position. I was looking at it that way. And I was on the second story. And so there was like a railing, it had like bars. And I stuck the AK-47 through the bars and was watching this downstairs, the ground, what am I saying? The first story, the first story entryway into the mall. I knew that the enemy soldiers were coming in that way. And the sun must have been behind them because as the first soldier started running in, I could see the shadows silhouetting on the ground. So when the first soldier runs in, I was already looking through my rifle. If you don't know anything about shooting rifles, you have a rear sight aperture, which is like a circle. And in the very front of a rifle is the front sight post. And so what you got to do is as you're looking through that circle in the back, you're looking at that front sight post, right? And basically, you got to make a lollipop shape with it, like that. You got to put that front sight post right in the middle of the circle. And that's where your bullet's going to go, right? That's where you think it would go. So, anyways, I'm looking through the open iron sights of my AK-47. And the first Chinese soldier runs in. And I have him dead to rights. I'm sighted right in on him. And I took three shots. Pop, pop, pop. And all three of my bullets went off to his left. I could see them impacting the tile next to him. So he had his rifle up and he shot some of my guys before he got shot. Then three more infantry soldiers ran in into view. There was a whole unit of them coming in, but three more ran into view. And I had them all in my sights and I took shots, pop, 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 and I missed them all. And then they started shooting my guys. Then my guys ended up killing them all. And then the rest of their unit came, and it was just it was a firefight, and we ended up shooting them all. So then I don't know if this was my platoon sergeant or the platoon commander. He walked out after all the shooting was done because he was downstairs. He walked out and he looked up at me and he says, "Can't you hit what you shoot at?" or something like that. And I told him, "This isn't my rifle." And then I woke up. So I had a knowing. I just had a knowing of what God was showing me. So when you're in the military, you get issued your own rifle, right? It has its own serial number, and that serial number is your rifle. It's yours, right? This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. That's why they have that saying. But your rifle, every infantry soldier's rifle is sighted in, it's custom to them. Because when you put your head on the stock of a rifle, and then you're looking through that rear sight aperture and you're looking at your front sight post, um, the thing that changes that relationship is the width of your face. So if you have like a pumpkin head, your head sits a little higher up off that rifle stock. And if you have a more slender face, it sits more deeply on the rifle stock. But what you're actually doing is you're adjusting your windage and elevation or whatever, that relationship between the rear side aperture and that front side post, you're changing it on the against the dimensions of your face is what you're doing. So when you're sighting in your rifle, um, you're sighting it in against, how do you say it? You're sighting it in with the contours of your face. Because if not, you would just drop a bore sight laser inside the chamber and you would chamber it and you would turn that laser on, of course, and chamber it. And wherever that light shines, that's where the bullet's going, right? Or whatever. But they don't just bore sight things, right? It's sighted in on the shooter's face. That way the when a soldier is shooting their rifle, they almost can't miss because it's sighted in custom to their face. I mean, if something's moving, you can miscalculate that. But what I'm saying is, you almost can't miss because it's your rifle. Boom, 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 and that's that. But here's the thing that God showed me. When you pick up somebody else's rifle, you don't know you don't know how those things have been adjusted. You understand? You don't know if that rear sight aperture was slid this way or that way. You don't know if the front sight post was slid up and down. You don't know how it was moved to contour to that soldier's face. In the dream, I had the enemy infantry in my sights, and I missed. I missed by a long shot. I missed by like 2 feet. I was like 2 feet off to their left and low. Now, if put in that dream again, I would just adjust Kentucky windage and just, aim a little higher and to the left or two off to their left. But anyways, you can't just pick up some enemy soldiers or somebody else's rifle and expect that just because you're aiming on them that you're going to hit what you're shooting at because you're not gonna. If 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 that weapon has been battle sight zeroed to that soldier's face, you're gonna miss every time. So basically, if ever put in the situation, and you have a chance to practice and adjust your windage and elevation, all that, make sure you do that before you get into like an actual live firefight, because you might be putting rounds down range and you're going to be missing big time, because that's what happened in the dream. And I'm a pretty good shot, and in that dream, I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with that AK-47. So, anyways, that's how that went. So I woke up kind of frustrated, but I understood the concept of what God was showing me. God was showing me, don't just like, if you ever have the time, there might not be the time. You might just be in the middle of some poop and pick up some rifle and just start hooking and jabbing. But if you have time, you need to at least get a general idea of what your bullets are going to be impacting when you pull the trigger. Ideally, you'd want that weapon to be battle sight zeroed with your face sitting on that rifle stock. So, anyways, that's that. That's what happened in that dream. So that's the takeaway. Don't pick up some random rifle and think that you're gonna be taking sniper shots because you're not. You need to sight your rifle in. So, anyways, that was one dream. Then a few days later, I had another dream. In this dream, I'm at a hotel and I'm at the front desk and I'm speaking to like the concierge woman, the person that checks you in and all this. And I'm talking to her about I don't even know what. And this young couple comes walking by. They could have been like late teens, early 20s. I guess they probably were early 20s because teens can't rent a hotel. But the older I get, the younger everybody else looks. So, anyways, this couple comes walking by and they're holding hands and their hands are like swinging all in love and they're like laser locked on each other's eyes. And the girl's like, she's got her head kind of like leaning against dude's shoulder. And they're walking by, they're in love. And the lady behind the desk, she was like, ew. And I said, ew, what? And then she goes, can you believe those two? And I said, what? They're in love. And she was like, yeah, but look at the way they're walking. Something like this. And I said, what do you mean? They're holding hands and they're in love with each other. It's like, what's the problem? She goes, and the lady asked me, she said, you like that? And I said, that's kind of the point, isn't it? And then she looked at me like, ew. And I looked at her like, what's wrong with you? But anyways, that was the end of that dream. I don't know what her deal was, but I mean that's basically the point of being with somebody, like in my opinion. I guess different strokes for different folks, but I didn't see nothing wrong with that. In fact, that was kind of like the target. That's the desired situation, I guess. So that's that. That was that dream. I don't know what that was about. Maybe I'm supposed to just say this. So, but that's how I feel. To me, like that, I didn't see anything wrong with that. In fact, that's what I like. So, anyways, the next dream, the next dream, so this morning I woke up twice. I woke up at 0 dark 30 from this one dream, and I was like, "Oh man, I think I finally slept so much that I can't sleep no more. I finally like all the way caught up." But I was able to go back to sleep after this one. But this next flash of a dream was it goes like this. I walk into a room, and there's this white man with red hair talking to a whole bunch of people, and this person's skin was about as white as this receipt. Now I don't know if you can tell, but I'm brown. The lighting in here is kind of horrible. But this dude had like the pastiest skin ever, as if like he had never seen the sun in his life. His skin was this color, and his hair was this color. So he had this glow in the dark white skin with this rosy red hair. And he said, man, it's tough being a Jew these days. And I looked at him and I said, a Jew? And he said, yeah. And I said, you're the whitest motherfucker I ever seen in my life. And he goes, what? And I said, Jews are brown. And then I woke up. So that's that. I don't really think I need to put too much on that. Hello. The Israelites are from the Middle East. What do you think they look like? The real Israelites are from the Middle East. Do the math. I don't know what this is all about. I don't know how this became that, but God is showing my dreams like to have nothing to do with that and to call it out because I keep calling it out in many, many, many dreams. I keep calling that exact thing out. I told that guy, I said, "You're the whitest motherfucker I ever seen in my life." So, anyways, that was that. And then I went back to sleep and I had another dream. The dream that I woke up from this morning, like the one that I stayed awake from, I'm still awake from right now, is this. It was deep into the Great Tribulation. And I was on top of this mountain in like some forested kind of mountainous area. And down below me was a lake. And I was at this sheer vertical cliff that goes down probably like 100 feet to the lake. And there was like a store that was out on the end of like a dock or a pier. There was a little store out there, just a little store. Nothing really too fancy. But there was somebody on a canoe. And they were like rowing in their canoe. And so I jumped off of the mountain and I was like falling, going towards the lake. And in the dream, I was very excited. Um, anyways, the thought of that makes me very happy. So I jumped off and I was just free falling down. And then I hit the water and I came back up. And when I came back up, there was a woman on the canoe and I startled her and she only spoke Spanish. So I told her, I basically told her like, what are you doing on this lake? Like you should not be like paddling on this lake in this boat by yourself. And she was like, yeah, I know. So anyways, in my dream, she was very pretty. So I asked her, I said, hey, you want to get married with me? I'll take care of you. I'll protect you. And she was like, oh, yeah, yeah. Anyways, this conversation happened in Spanish. Between the Spanish I thought I was speaking and the English she thought she was speaking, we communication was established. But in the dream, I knew I knew that there were some people that were watching her. They had been watching her for a few days. And I knew that this is the reason why she wanted to be with me, was she wanted to be protected from those guys. So I had a knowing of that. But in the dream, I had a knowing that that's not my kingdom wife, that that's not the person that I should be with. I had like this deep conviction in my soul. Although she was super hot, I had this conviction in my soul that I should not be with her, that I'm supposed to be with my kingdom wife, my kingdom spouse, the one that God keeps showing me. Um, so, anyways, that's what I dreamt this morning. So, just to get a little thoughts on that, I had a dream a couple years ago. And a couple years ago, the Holy Spirit told me the point of the Great Tribulation is to restore the natural order of things. So, by the time I had that dream, I was like, what does that mean? To restore the natural order of things. But as time goes on and God keeps showing me more and more and more in my dreams, I'm starting to understand. I'm starting to understand a little bit better some of the things that statement covers. One of the things that that statement covers is protection. So back in the days, um, women would be more than happy to be married with a man because the man would provide food and shelter and protection. And she would in turn turn his seed into a baby and make the house a home. There was a synergistic, SYN, synergistic um, thing that happened when people came together. And or whatever, whatever the case may, whatever the sexual orientation may be, it doesn't matter. People, people came together because they needed each other. People needed each other. So in this dream, the woman that was on the canoe by herself, she was very attractive, and she immediately, when I said, "Hey," I didn't even ask her what her name was. I said, "Hey, you want to marry me?" And she was like, "Yes, yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do want to marry you." She was super excited to be married to me. And I was just a guy who just popped out of the freaking lake. So anyways, it just goes to show you how dangerous it must have been for her, knowing that people were chasing her. And who knows, maybe that's why she was on the canoe. She was trying to get to the middle of the lake so nobody else could get to her. But during the Great Tribulation, it's gonna be very, very dangerous. So right now you have all these gender wars or whatever, these gender wars that are happening where they have this panel of men who hate women, this panel of women who hate men, and they're at each other's throats debating about whose gender is the best. It's pathetic to be honest with you. And if you actually do the research on it, every empire before it falls, the people, this is what happens. This is what happens. It's one of the telltale signs. It's like the Black Swan. The Black Swan event that you know your empire is done for is when the women start being like, "We don't need no men," and the men start being like, "We don't need no women." Um, that is absolutely that's that's not it. That's not it. So I was told in a dream that the point of the Great Tribulation is to restore the natural order of things. So right now everybody's safe, and right now everybody's belly is fed. And when was the last time anybody heard their stomach actually growling? Right? Some people they'll be like, "Shoot, I don't remember the last time my stomach growled." Well, you know what? You're fortunate because during the Great Tribulation, your stomach's going to do nothing but growl. And the Great Tribulation is going to restore the natural order of things. And women are absolutely going to be excited to be married to a nice man. They might even be happy to be married to an asshole. Who knows? But anyways, I doubt that. But and some men or whatever, they're I don't know how to explain this. It's not good for man to be alone. It's not good for woman to be alone. So like, whatever the sexual orientation is, it doesn't really matter. It's just not good to be alone, right? So some guys are like, oh, I don't like girls because they're all like, they're only on OnlyFans or they got Instagram and they're social media famous and all this kind of crap. Then people be like, oh, well, this girl has a body count of whatever, who cares? And there's all this gender debate going on. But once the fecal matter hits the oscillating blades, none of that is going to matter. The Great Tribulation is going to put everything into perspective. It really is. When people are fighting for their lives and having to scrounge to find anything to eat, things are really going to start being put into perspective. And people are going to want a partner. It's just the way it is. You know what I mean? You're getting close to death on a daily basis. You're like, hey, you know what? I want to spend my last few hours cuddling with somebody or whatever the case may be. So, anyways, this is what happened in the dream. The woman was like being stalked by some guys that were running through the forest, and she was more than happy to be with me. But I had a knowing that she's not the one that I'm supposed to be with because I know, anyways. So that's that. That's the dream that I woke up from this morning. So the Great Tribulation, the point of it, it's going to restore the natural order of things. All these gender wars and all this crap that's going on right now, it's nonsense. Um, all this Karen and Ken bull crap that's going on, that's nonsense too. People are only bickering and fighting over the smallest details of nothing because they have nothing better to do, because their survival is not at risk. The minute you're fighting for a meal or for some shelter or for some safety, then all that bickering is going to go away. So, anyways, that's what I dreamt. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else. So, in closing and final thoughts, if you're ever in a situation where you have to pick up a rifle to protect yourself or your family or whatever, take the time to fire a few rounds out of it to get your battle sight zero, because it's going to cost somebody their life if you miss. And so I guess that's that. But anyways, his eyes open in California. Thank you. God bless you.